Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise and get straight to the insights you need. Today, we're diving into a topic that, well, many of you, our tech-curious listeners, we grapple with. How do you truly bridge that gap between knowing about something and, actually doing it? Especially in the demanding world of technical skills. We're talking about hands-on learning, the kind that actually sticks. If you've ever tried to really master something complex, like, say, system administration, reading a manual only gets you so far. You need to get your hands dirty, build things, break them, figure out how to fix them. And that's where a dedicated lab environment becomes, well, indispensable. We've been sifting through some fantastic material that outlines exactly how to set up a practical, real-world lab using a cloud provider with a particular focus on Linode. So, our mission today is clear. We're going to unpack why a robust, dedicated lab environment isn't just a nice-to-have, but an absolute game changer for genuine skill development.
We'll explore the undeniable advantages a cloud provider brings to this learning process, and then crucially, we'll demystify a real-world example by breaking down Linode's key concepts. And look, this deep dive isn't just for aspiring IT pros. It's about understanding the foundational elements of modern digital infrastructure, which, let's be honest, now underpins almost every aspect of our connected lives. So let's jump right in. We know hands-on experience is crucial, but what's the fundamental shift, the real benefit that a cloud provider like Linode brings to a dedicated lab environment, especially compared to just, running a few VMs on my laptop or maybe that old server gathering dust in the corner? Why is this not just a good idea, but truly crucial for success, particularly when you're aiming for something as rigorous as, say, a Red Hat Certified System Administrator certification?
That's a great question, and it really gets to the core of why cloud labs are such a paradigm shift for learning. The material we've looked at really emphasizes that it's not just about convenience. It's really about a completely transformed learning experience. First, the most obvious but profoundly impactful benefit is access from anywhere.
Right.
Forget being tethered to a physical machine. With a cloud lab, your entire learning environment lives online. You could be prepping for RHCSA from a coffee shop, maybe experimenting with Apache config from your tablet on the couch, or, troubleshooting a network issue from your desktop.
Any device, basically.
Exactly. That flexibility isn't just about comfort. It means you can seize learning moments whenever and wherever they pop up. It makes your study time far more efficient, more consistent. It truly liberates you from, hardware constraints.
That flexibility is huge.
Yeah.
No more lugging around a hefty laptop or being stuck at your desk just to get some serious practice in.
Yeah.
But it goes beyond just access, right? It feels like there's a deeper, more strategic advantage to learning in the cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is perhaps the most significant insight. You gain real-world cloud experience.
Ah, okay.
You see, companies today aren't just running Linux servers, they're running them in the cloud. So when you're provisioning a virtual machine or configuring networking or setting up storage in, say, a Linode environment, you're not just learning generic Linux commands in a vacuum. You're internalizing how these tasks are performed in the very ecosystem where countless modern applications and businesses actually operate.
All right, where the jobs are, essentially.
Precisely. This isn't just theoretical knowledge for an exam. It's invaluable practical experience that employers are actively looking for. You're learning what to do, but critically how to do it in a scalable, professional, and contemporary setting. It's about building muscle memory for the cloud.
So it's not just about learning Linux, it's about learning cloud-native Linux. That distinction feels really critical. And I can imagine for anyone preparing for something like RHCSA, where, precision and reproducibility are key, the ability to just reset and retest scenarios must be a massive advantage.
Exactly right. And that brings us neatly to the third major benefit the sources highlight. The ease of creating and destroying environments. Think about the old way, right? Setting up a physical server, installing an OS, configuring everything. It takes hours, maybe days sometimes.
Oh, yeah. And if you break it?
And if you completely mess it up, you might have to start all over from scratch, which is incredibly time-consuming and, frankly, discouraging. In the cloud, you can spin up a new server, what Linode calls a Linode, in literally minutes.
Wow.
You can experiment with a complex, potentially system-breaking configuration without fear. If you botch it, which, let's be honest, you will and should as a learner.
Oh, absolutely. Breaking things is definitely part of the learning process. I have lost count of how many times I've accidentally locked myself out of an SSH session on a local VM or brought down a web server with one bad config line.
Exactly. We've all been there. So if you completely mess it up, you can just tear it down and start fresh just as quickly, often with just a few clicks. There's no risk of damaging your main computer or wasting valuable hardware resources. This encourages fearless experimentation, learning from mistakes, and really internalizing concepts through repetition. That whole iterative learning cycle, it's drastically accelerated by the cloud.
That's a huge psychological hurdle removed for learners, isn't it? No more analysis paralysis, no more fear of like bricking your machine, just pure uninhibited learning. It sounds incredibly empowering. Yeah. Okay, now that we've firmly established the why of Cloud Labs, let's get into a concrete example. Our sources feature Linode, an Akamai company, actually, which offers a really compelling case study for these benefits. What makes Linode stand out in what's, let's face it, a pretty crowded cloud market, particularly for someone looking to set up a learning environment?
Well, when we connect Linode to the bigger picture of cloud computing, its core focus reveals a significant insight, especially for learners and developers. The sources really emphasize three critical pillars: simplicity, performance, and affordability.
Okay. Simplicity, performance, affordability.
Right. In a market often dominated by these hyperscale clouds that can feel, frankly, overwhelmingly complex and sometimes costly, Linode offers a refreshing directness. And this simplicity isn't just about having an intuitive user interface, though, it certainly does have that. It's more about stripping away layers of abstraction that, while powerful for huge enterprises, can actually be a distraction for someone just trying to learn core system administration.
Interesting.
For focused learning, less abstraction often means faster, deeper comprehension. It lets you concentrate on the actual operating system and application tasks, not just like navigating a labyrinthine cloud portal.
That's a really interesting point. So the simplicity isn't about dumbing down the experience. It's more about focusing the experience on the right layer of the stack for the learner. What about performance and affordability then? How do those translate into real benefits for someone building a lab?
Precisely. Performance ensures that your virtual servers respond quickly. When you're typing commands or compiling code or running scripts, a responsive environment is just crucial for a smooth, frustration-free learning experience. Nobody wants to wait minutes for a simple command to execute, right?
Definitely not. That kills the flow.
Exactly. And affordability. Well, this is key for sustained learning. It means you can maintain a pretty robust lab environment, maybe even with multiple servers, for extended periods without a significant financial burden. This allows for the most critical learning element: uninhibited, long-term experimentation without constantly worrying about an escalating bill.
Yeah, that peace of mind is important.
Absolutely. This combination, simplicity, performance, affordability, makes Linode particularly appealing to a specific audience, primarily developers, students, and system administrators. It's really built for those who need reliable, scalable infrastructure, but maybe don't require the sometimes overkill feature set or the enterprise-level pricing of some other providers. It really hits that sweet spot for educational purposes, personal projects, and, small to medium-sized deployments.
That makes perfect sense. It's about getting exactly what you need to learn and operate effectively without paying for features you don't use or navigating a system designed for a different scale. It sort of democratizes access to powerful infrastructure. Okay, now let's frame this next section as understanding the fundamental universal components of cloud infrastructure. We'll use Linode's terminology as our practical example, but remember, these are the conceptual building blocks you'll encounter in some form or another, regardless of which cloud provider you eventually interact with. Think of this as translating cloud speak into actionable knowledge.
Absolutely. Understanding these foundational concepts is where the real transferable skill lies. So first up, we have Linodes themselves.
Right, the virtual server.
Exactly. As we mentioned, these are your virtual servers, your personal machines living entirely in the cloud. When you click Create Linode, you're essentially provisioning a dedicated slice of a powerful physical server, complete with its own CPU, RAM, and storage, all accessible to you over the internet. The insight here is really realizing the sheer speed and elasticity. You can just conjure up a fully functional server compared to, traditional hardware procurement.
Well, it's instant.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Next, we talk about regions. These are Linode's global data centers. Now, the basic idea of geographic location affecting latency, the closer your server, generally the faster your connection. That's pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
But the deeper insight for a learner, or maybe a future administrator, is understanding strategic deployment. You might choose a region close to your users, sure, but you also need to consider things like data residency laws, maybe disaster recovery strategies, or even separating dev and production environments across regions. It's not just about speed, it's about resilience and compliance, too.
So selecting a region isn't just a simple click. It can have significant implications down the line. That's a great point for anyone thinking beyond just a single lab machine.
Exactly right. Then there are images. These are essentially the operating system templates you use to quickly deploy your Linodes. Our sources specifically highlight the choice of Rocky Linux for its crucial RHEL or Red Hat Enterprise Linux compatibility.
Which is key for the RHCSA.
Absolutely non-negotiable for anyone preparing for that exam, as the exam is fundamentally based on RHEL. And the forward-thinking aspect here is the plan mentioned in the source, starting with Rocky 9 and then seamlessly transitioning to Rocky 10 once it becomes available on the Linode platform. This shows a commitment to staying current with enterprise-grade distributions, which is vital for exam relevance and, frankly, real-world applicability. You're learning on a system that behaves almost identically to what you'd find in a corporate environment.
That's good planning.
Moving on, we have plans. This is basically how you size your server. When you create a Linode, you choose a plan that dictates its allocated resources, how much CPU, RAM, storage it gets. This really showcases the customizable nature of cloud resources. The insight for learners here is understanding how to right-size your instances.
Right sizing. Important.
Very. You need to balance performance and cost. You don't want to overspend on a massive server for a simple lab task, but you also don't want to undersize it and struggle with slow performance. Learning to scale resources up or down on demand is a critical cloud skill. And finally, rounding out these building blocks, we have networking basics. Now, concepts like IP addresses for communication and firewalls for protection are fundamental, sure. But the real learning curve in a cloud lab is understanding their cloud-native implementation.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for your RHCSA prep, for instance, it's not just what a firewall does, but how to configure both the cloud provider's network security rules, which operate at the virtual network level, and the OS level firewall, like firewalled in Rocky Linux, to work together properly.
Yeah, so there are two layers of firewalling to think about.
Exactly. Misconfiguring these in the cloud can lead to subtle connectivity issues, or worse, pretty gaping security holes. That's where the hands-on practice becomes just indispensable, because that interaction between cloud security layers and OS security layers is often overlooked until, well, something breaks.
That's a crucial distinction. Many beginners might miss that dual layer of network protection. It sounds like the knowledge you gain in this specific Linode context, even though you're using their particular names like Linode, is actually incredibly transferable. Am I right in thinking that, say, an instance on another platform shares a lot of DNA with a Linode?
Absolutely. That's a key takeaway right there, the universality of these core concepts. While the names might differ, you might hear instance instead of Linode, or maybe security groups versus Linode's firewall interface. The underlying principles, the architectural patterns, the functional objectives, they remain remarkably similar across major providers. The knowledge you gain understanding these Linode building blocks, and critically, how to actually interact with them, is highly transferable. It provides a fantastic foundational understanding that will serve you well no matter which major cloud provider you eventually end up working with.
That's incredibly reassuring for anyone worried about specializing too narrowly.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about learning the core principles.
Mm-hmm.
And to bring those concepts to life, let's actually visualize how you'd interact with them. Imagine you're at the helm of your cloud lab. That's essentially what the Linode Cloud Manager dashboard offers. It's your central control panel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bringing all those Linodes, regions, and networking settings into one accessible place.
Exactly. It's your command center.
And what's particularly insightful for a learner is how intuitively it seems to guide you. When you first log in, you're greeted by a clean main dashboard. Notice how Create Linode is often a really prominent single-click action rather than being buried under layers of menus.
Mm-hmm. Makes it easy to get started.
That's a clear indicator of Linode's design philosophy. Get you experimenting fast. As you navigate, you'll find a clear navigation sidebar, usually on the left. This is your mission control.
Yeah, that's pretty standard.
It's where you'd go to view a list of your existing Linodes or dive into networking to configure those IP addresses and firewalls we just discussed, or manage storage if you need block or object storage. Everything is logically grouped, which really streamlines the process of setting up and managing your lab. It lets you focus on the how-to of system administration without getting, lost in the interface itself.
Which is important when you're trying to learn complex technical stuff. Reduces cognitive load.
Right. And on the practical side, you'll also find sections for billing and account settings. This is obviously important for keeping an eye on your usage, managing payment methods, and ensuring you stay within your budget, which is honestly a real-world skill in itself when working with cloud resources.
Definitely. Cost management is huge in the cloud.
The whole design really emphasizes user-friendliness, making it accessible even for those new to cloud management. It lets you truly focus on the learning. So what does this all mean for you, our dedicated learner? We've delved into the undeniable value of cloud-based labs, exploring the clear advantages they hold over traditional local setups. We've demystified core Linode concepts, not just as isolated terms, but as practical building blocks for navigating really any cloud environment. Linode clearly serves as a powerful yet remarkably simple foundation for a robust, hands-on lab environment, enabling you to build genuine technical skills that are highly relevant in today's tech landscape.
It sets a strong baseline.
And beyond just passing an exam or learning a specific skill set, think about the broader potential here. The same tools and understanding we discussed today are exactly what you can leverage for personal projects, for experimenting with entirely new technologies, or even for deploying the infrastructure for a small business or maybe a passion project. The possibilities for independent creation and innovation are truly exciting.
And that leads to a final, maybe provocative thought for you to consider. How does this increasing accessibility of powerful cloud infrastructure, exemplified by platforms like Linode, how does it truly democratize complex technical skills? When anyone can spin up a server in minutes, experiment without that constant fear of high costs or breaking hardware, and learn in an environment mirroring professional setups, what new possibilities does this really open up? It's not just about traditional learning pathways anymore, is it? It's about empowering individuals to innovate, to build their own digital futures, and to participate in shaping the technological landscape in ways that were once only accessible to, well, large organizations with deep pockets. What new ideas might emerge from this, and how does this shift the landscape of who can contribute to our digital world? It feels like a fundamental change in how we acquire and apply technical knowledge, potentially enabling a whole new generation of builders.